Hello, I'm Justice Komba, and this is Healing Journeys with Justice Komba.
My name is Linnet, a medical student at Kairuki University. I'm a writer. I write books, and I'm also a poet. And I'm extremely grateful for being here and sharing my experience.
How do you feel being here today?
Well, I'm very happy and very grateful to be here.
Well, I'm Adela. It's a great opportunity. Sikuitegemea kwanza.
It's usually a very nice experience when you get to talk to people and you get to share what you have been through, and what you have been through gets to relate to them, and then they can feel like they're not alone. So I'm so happy that I get to do that.
Thank you very much. So you see, the goal of this project or this program is to first and foremost to raise awareness, because personally I believe that the level of understanding of education on mental health related matters in our country or our society is very minimal. So we need to do as much as we can to, push that up. But also our society has so much stigma when it comes to mental health issues, plus that community of comfort among people who are struggling is also very low. So we want to raise it up. But I want to hear from your side. Why did you decide to do this? Why are you here? Why do you want to share your story? And why do you find that mental health is a concern? And how far are you willing to help the people who are struggling with mental health issues?
We live in a society where everything is constantly changing every day. And especially to young people, when they're growing up, they get to experience all these things at once, you see. And it kind of affects how they feel and how they deal with these things. And it can be such an emotional load. And there's usually not so many people around them to tell them, we see you, we're willing to help you emotionally, we're willing to support you emotionally, more than just physically or financially. But a lot of young people grow up in families where parents and the relatives constantly ignore their mental health. It's very rare to find a parent saying, how are you feeling today? Did you wake up well? What were your emotions when you were in school? Did you feel this? Did you feel that? They mostly focus on other things, but you never really know what a child is going through emotionally every single day, what they're battling against. And sometimes someone just wants a tap on the shoulder, I know you're struggling, we know you're doing this, you're doing that, we're here to help you and support you. So I wanted to be out here and to just let people know that it's okay to reach out when you feel like the people who are around you don't relate to you. You can reach out, you can ask for help, and sometimes don't be afraid to get heard. Some people can be if I say this, they're gonna think I'm weak, they're gonna think I can't deal with this. But it's all right. Go out there, put yourself out there, say how you feel, because at the end of the day, nobody's gonna know that you're hurting if you're just hurting in silence. So yeah.
We want to hear your story, a story that you prepared for us today, that's about mental health, how it was, the challenges, how you coped, and how it helped you into becoming the person you are today.
Okay. So a little while back, when I was in high school, I was about to finish high school during the COVID period. Wow, that was a really tough time. Most people know it. So I'd gone home. I was about to do my national examination, so I had to go home. And it wasn't really easy being at home at that time. And there were a lot of family issues that really affected me mentally. So when I had gone back to school at that time, I was already emotionally, damaged in a way. So it really affected the kind of person that I was. I was so extroverted. I would speak to everybody. I would commute. And then I just became dissociative. I became so introverted. It wasn't me. So I was so much in my own space, in my own head. And the more I dissociated, the more like the sadness consumed me, and it became something that was like longative. It became a long period of this severe sadness and like misery that affected how I learned, how I talked to people, how I moved. People who are depressed, it's like they're in a different axis. Like the world revolves, but it's like they're spinning in the other direction, like they're in their own bubble. So like they're in this really dark place, and everything is the opposite to them. So I was very unenthusiastic, very negative, and I had this thing where everybody might be happy, but somehow I will turn that happy moment into like a period of sadness. So
For everyone else?
for everyone else, like it was just a thing. Like people are talking about how great this party is, and I'm like, but you know, this and that, and then everybody's like,
Did you really have to say that?
like I
Was
didn't
it
have
necessary?
to, but I was like, but I'm sad, you know, like what are you happy about? You know, like what are you happy about? Like
You just wanted people to feel what you're
yeah,
feeling,
because
you know?
nobody was hearing me. Like I'm trying to tell people, like, you know, I'm so sad, like I'll get over it, it's nothing, you know, but it was something. And then it like, instead of focusing on all the good things that are happening in the world, most of the news that I would hear, like the news that I would try to seek out, were all the bad news. Like, okay, sure, there is a concert, but there are people who are dying somewhere. Like, so I would like seek out all the bad news because it felt like I could connect more to people who are sad than more to people who are happy. So my entire world became sad. And so it continued like that over the years until it just became who I was. And it was so bad, I couldn't come to uni, I had to postpone a year. It was something I had to heal from to be able to go on. But in like, a person would look on the outside, would be like, oh, she's fine, she's happy, she's like this, she's like this. When somebody would ask me, why did you postpone the year? I would be like, oh, I was just rested, you know? But I was literally so in such a bad place. But then at the end of the day, I realized like, what happened to me, it happened. And there are things that you can never change. You can never change, but you can always work on what you can do. And at that point, I was like, I can work on myself. Like, I know I can't change my financial situation or what's happening around the world. Like, I can do that. But if I want to get better, I have to start with myself. So I had to pull myself out of that. Because if I could save myself, then I could help someone else. But if I'm dying and drowning in my own waters, I won't see the other person who's drowning on the other side. So it took a while, but I was eventually able to come out of that. And I was able to help whoever was beside me who was also going through the same thing.
Youth are so compacted with a lot of issues concerning mental health, and it reaches a time that we fail to know what we should do, or we do things in the wrong way while expecting that in the long run we can learn away from our problems, and sometimes adding more or adding fuel to the fire. So I guess we just need to open up, talk to youth.
Now let's start with the real situation, the reality, and what people think towards mental health. Can you tell us more on that aspect?
Well, I think currently we have a lot of people going through mental health illness due to many pushing factors like unemployment. People think on how they should eat, how to get money, how to reach at a certain stage, relationship issues, family matters, for students, their studies, hardship, expectation. So all those things, a person might be holding them inside to act strong enough. So all these things make people drawn more into depression, face mental illness, felt open up.
Is that the reality or is that what people are thinking?
This is the reality.
And
but
what
what
are
do people
people
think that when you are going through, you can find a person just saying like, how can you reach this age and you're unemployed? How can you go to school and you fail? How can you do this and this? You're so lazy. People sewing words and speaking like this act was out of stupidity. What you did is total nonsense. So the society takes mental health as a very light thing, something that a person can face in a day and then the next day is totally okay.
let's hear your story. Something ambayo ni mental health related ambayo imetokea wewe maishani kwako ili tujue how you were able to deal with it.
Yeah. You know, when you grow up and when we were kids, we had this good environment, very good friends and nice ones and everything. I guess my first mental health challenge was being bullied. Yeah. You know, sometimes you are bullied because you cannot do something, or bullied because you have something, people saying words about you, sometimes of things that you have never done or thought of doing. I guess that was my first experience. So at that time, I just needed to find a friend who I can just talk to. Just a person who's going to tell you, like, you're not this kind of person, you are this kind of person, you're not so bad, in fact, you are good, you are kind or anything. There's a time that we need those positive words just to feel a little bit better and easy. In the society, not everyone is going to accept you, and that's not a mistake. Yeah, so I finally embraced those things, changed my perspective, and knew that we all have a weak point. Perhaps someone's weakness is talking about you. You also have your weakness that bothers a person. So at the end of the day, I just found myself studying well. Here I am.
Kwa hiyo ulijikuta katika mazingira ambayo people are talking about you, saying bad things about you and talking behind your back. Jinsi gani kwa na kuaffect wewe ukiachana tu na about masomo, hivyo kiakili, yani interaction yako na watu ilikuwaje, interaction na walimu ilikuwaje? Na wakati mwingine labda umesikia kabisa labda mtu fulani ndio alikuwa anakusema, unawezaje sasa tena kumface huyu mtu labda mpo darasa moja, umeona? Yani how was it with you?
I just made a drawing back behavior that everything I can do it on my own. So I had no friends, like speaking to people and everything. I just made 1 or 2 friends that I could talk to, and after there is over. And it went far to my eating appetite. You find some days I don't eat at all, or I just eat a little food. It's just that there's a time like you feel like something is within you, like there's something heavy, there's something pointing in you, something hurts. Ukipita unaona kama watu wanakuongelea wewe, ukipita unaona kama kila mtu anakuona wewe mbaya, ukipita unaona kama vile kila mtu anahisi you're not a good person. But at the end of the day, you know, as days go, from the first from 5 when we reach from 6, you just adapt it kwamba huyu ni mtu wa hivi. Kwa mwisho siku tuliishi na mpaka sasa tunaongea. So it's just that you had to accept that thing and change your perspective. It's not that every person you meet is a bad person, the same way that not everyone you meet is a good person, but that doesn't mean that you have to avoid every person in your journey. You just need to learn and unlearn some things, accept some things, and know that you cannot change someone's perspective on you, but you can change how you behave toward them. So it reached a time that I spoke to them, we talked, we made stories, but with limits. I knew, like, if it's talking about school and everything, it's just that anything personal will remain my personality. I won't give it out.
Did you do anything to address how did you maybe stand up maybe in class and try to defend yourself, or you know, say maybe what they're saying is not true, that they should stop talking about you and stuff like that? Was that one of the measures that you thought of taking?
I think someone can correct me, but I'm not that person who will stand in front of people to just prove my innocence. No. Because, you know, when a person had this perception on you, first ask you directly, like, I hear 1, 2, 3, is it true? No matter how much you convince that person what will say, or many of us how we perceive it, that this person is defending herself. So I was having that drawing back behavior. I cannot stand in class and say, like, hey, I'm innocent. Hey, I just said 1, 2, 3. I just felt like the moment I say so, everyone will ask, like, who told you? Who did this? Who brought this words to you and everything? So at times you can cause a more fight. So I just drew it back and said, like, it's just like a season fire. Everything starts and calms down.
How did you start healing in the situation? How did you start coping with the situation? The first step, the 2, what you did after?
The first step, I would say, I just found friends. I spoke to them. They gave me that positive thinking and everything. And like you're from school, so no, school environment is a bit simple, different from outside. So we'll have friends, and the teachers at the time, even those who were speaking on the bright side and everything. They'll just come and talk to you in one way or the other. You're gonna meet when taking dinner. So with time, I guess, you just learn to forget some things and forgive, because nobody is perfect. So the moment you forgive a person and accept, like, she has a weakest point and I have my weakest point, but when it comes to the need of helping each other and everything, some grudges you just have to unhold them and unfold yourself, because it's just a stage and everyone passes through that. So you just learn to forgive a person, you just forgive, you just open a new chapter in every page and try to learn and unlearn people as time goes on.
Do you think acceptance is a necessary tool in trying to deal with problems or challenges?
It might not be a 100% effective tool, because many of us fail to move or to step a bit forward or to get up on our knees from droning back, because we fail to accept the situation.
Do you ever find yourself, when you're going through a moment of sadness or something just out of normal, right? Do you ever get the need that people should see you, or they should feel what you're going through? Do you get such kind of a feeling when you're going through stuff?
Yeah, like in the beginning of like my depressive phase, it's like a cry for help. Like, okay, I can't tell you, but like, see that today I'm dressed terribly. See, like I didn't put my hair right. Like, I'm literally sitting in my room all day. Like,
Doesn't that
notice. So yeah, eventually I was like, okay, like I have to save myself. You know, in the end of the day, like.
Wait, do you think most people go through such kind of a stage where they feel like they want to be noticed, but yet they just can't go and, communicate?
Yeah, I think it's universal to some people, but though it can depend on how you were raised. You know, there are families that raise children to always speak out. So for some people it's easier, but I feel like for most people, like they do feel like I want to be noticed, I want to, but then to take the necessary step to get noticed, to speak out, they kind of like feel like they can't.
They do take the necessary steps, like you said, not dressing well.
Like those, yeah, like passive.
Those
like,
might be just some passive ways of communication.
Exactly.
But then what makes it so difficult for people to speak out? That's where I was heading. Why do you think people are usually so reluctant to say something about their situations, about their challenges?
To me, when I was going through that, I felt like I couldn't make it direct, because I felt like I was scared that they wouldn't understand me, or like they would see I'm weak, or I'm a burden, like it's burdening, like why this person has their problems, why should I go on and burden them with my own issues, So it was a lot of that, and there was that like fear also, like if I tell them, then they will know I'm like this, then they'll probably judge me. So I feel like to me it was like that.
Is it still like that up to date?
Well, now I'm not scared to like open up. I can call my mom and I can tell her like this is exactly what's happening right now. And when I tell her exactly what's going on, she knows how to deal with it. I can tell a friend that is very close to me. Sometimes I pray about it.
So all these feelings of people being judgmental upon you, these things of you being a burden to them, and that fear, how exactly can someone overcome this?
I think at this point it's like self-sabotage, I feel like people should like not overthink it so much. Don't overthink it a lot. Like, what would be the 100 outcomes of me going to do this? Like, don't overthink it and just like do it. Because at the end of the day, overthinking things kind of make things bigger than what they actually are. And you're not a burden. You are more of a gift. And it would be more beneficial to a person that you went to them rather than you self-sabotaged. Like, let's take an example. you were extremely depressed and started self-harming because you were afraid that you'll be a burden to someone. So you started to harm yourself. Usually when people find out, they're like, you should have told me, you know? So like, to avoid that, you should have told me, like, just tell them. And then then their reaction will be their reaction. Like, don't try to assume that you're a burden, just do it.
I think that will do it. Now let's come to the part where you said that you worked on yourself. You know, you did some self measures to address your situation. How did that work out for you? And how exactly can someone work on themselves, you know, maybe before they ask for help or after they ask for help? How can I deal with my issues as a person? Because, you know, there's a part where I have to play as a person, and then the other part that I need help from someone else.
Well, first of all, you need to be very truthful with yourself. Like, admit that you're going through something. Because a lot of people go through things and they're in denial. They don't want to accept that they need to fix this. So be truthful with yourself. Assess what the issue is. Assess it truthfully with yourself. Determine the things within you that are the reason you're in this situation, and also assess the external factors. Because if we say like, it's only the things that are outside that are really disturbing me, would be a lie, because there's so many things about your own self that are also sabotaging yourself and making yourself more depressed. So be truthful with the things that are really within you that are a problem, and things that are outside, and then start to deal with them. If there is something within you like that you have realized that was the problem, let's say you got into a really serious argument with a person that you loved, and it was so bad that you broke up and you got into this depressive phase. So like, assess, like, what was the root of this? What happened? How can I fix this so that it doesn't happen again? So we can start with like self-assessment, truthful self-assessment, and then take the necessary steps to change what you can about yourself that can make the next process easier. And if it's something that you can't change, move on from it. It's fine. We all make mistakes, regrets happen. So like, that was the first thing that I did. I tried to look at my own issues. Like, I'm going to be truthful. I realized that a lot of the things that were happening to me was because like I was ungrateful. I could not look at the good things that were actually happening. I just thought more of like, it's his fault, instead of it being my fault. So I changed that. I started being more grateful. I started being more self-aware. And I also tried my level best to like do good things for myself, to make myself feel better. So like, I would take myself out, I would read a book, I would listen to a podcast. Also, if you're extremely depressed, try not to listen to very sad music because it just gets you sadder. So like, I avoided all negative news. Like, I tried to focus more on the positive news, what was happening in the positive side of the world. So try to focus on the good things. Try to focus on the things that do matter, like what you're actually doing at the moment that can improve you. Like, okay, you can start working on little things. Like, I wasn't doing so good in class. I'm going to start attending classes. I'm going to start reading more. I wasn't really talkative. I didn't talk to the people who were close, like my family, my friends. I started reaching out to people more. If I was engaging in bad habits, because I used to engage in a lot of bad habits, I drank a lot, smoked sometimes. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit that. It was a long process, but I did. I looked for people online, like looked for programs online that were helpful. Like, I went to YouTube, I looked for creators who talked more about positivity. I did that on Instagram, on TikTok and stuff like that. I engaged with people, so it helped.
Okay, that's really insightful. So many ways, so many resources that perhaps so many people didn't know that that's how they could deal with stuff. You said so much about depression. What is depression?
Okay, so depression is extreme, long periods of sadness. Like you can feel sad sometimes, that's a feeling. If it's long, it's a mood. If it's extremely long, it's a disorder, it's a problem. So like depression is like extreme, severe, prolonged periods of sadness. And it's very neurological. It has a lot to do with the biological side of it, and it's also extremely emotional. So when you're trying to deal with something like depression, you need counseling therapy, and at the same time, if it's like excessive, people go to medication because I said it's like it has a neurological aspect of it. So to me, that's what I believe depression is.
And how do you know that you're depressed?
So like usually I feel like the biggest sign is like excessive periods of misery, sadness, negativity, self-sabotage. You can go through like weight loss for some people, agitation, mood swings, dissociating yourself from society, from people. Yeah, I think that sums up.
What do you think can some of the major causes of depression, especially to youth?
So, aside from the biological, neurological aspect, I feel like a lot of what is happening in the world and in their societies and around them and growing up. You know, when you're a child, you rarely notice the things that are happening in the world. You're living in your own world. As you grow older, these things start to click in your head. So you get welcome to the good things and welcome to a lot of the bad things that are happening. So a lot of the bad things that could be happening around in your family, in your society, can affect an individual. Trying to cope with relationships and them going extremely wrong could contribute to depression. Also, I feel like the big contribution to depression is like the family environment. I believe that is the big, when parents become negligent and they don't really see their children as to see them as actually showing emotional support is one of like the biggest reasons why a lot of kids get depressed, because when they go through something emotional, they don't feel like they can tell their parent about it. They don't get help. Then they go through another emotional thing, they get sad. Another emotional thing, they don't resolve it, then it becomes piled up, and then we have a series of a lot of emotional things that are happening constantly that cause them to have sadness, and then they just pile up into one thing, and then it's a long period of sadness, and then it becomes a life. A life, and you forget that you were once happy. You forget that you could be happy in the future. It just becomes like, oh, my life is sad. Yeah.
I thank you very much. Last question. You said some stuff about family issues.
Yeah.
How family could contribute to depression, how the family environment could affect children. Now, I want you to say something to someone, who is going through family issues. I know family issues can be so different from one person, from individual to individual, but I want you to find something that is general, something you could say to a person who's going through any kind of family issues, but also something you could say to parents, on how they can make the family environment better for their children, so that a family can be the safest place where children or even parents themselves can find some kind of mental healing when they go through challenges, when they go through stuff. The first place where they can feel comfortable and safe, to find help would be in their families. Before we start looking for doctors, before we start looking for medications, how can our family be a safe space for us to seek mental health?
But when we start with like a child, like you're in a family that is going through a lot and it's affecting you mentally, physically, emotionally. The first thing that I would say to you is that nothing is permanent. This thing that you're going through will not happen for the rest of your life. And always seek to heal yourself. Try to find things that make you happy so that you can go through this. What is happening, let's say, with your parents is not your fault. First thing, you can grow, you can heal, you can become a better person despite what is happening in your family. You can grow to become a very successful person despite what your family might be doing to you or what is going on with your family might affect you. Never forget that in the end of the day, you are the only one who can change your life and you're the only one who can take yourself to a better place. So be ready for change and seek help if you can and open up, but mostly find happiness in the things that you love and hopefully it will go better. And for a family, for parents who are raising kids, try to really focus on their emotions and their feelings. Do not trample on them. Do not act like they're not there, that those kids can't feel the things that they are, because they are feeling them. Cherish them. Do not be too harsh. Do not be too strict. Educate them more rather than punishing them more.
So we need to accept that some situations happen. It's either we change our perception on those situations or we work on making the situation better.
Ni watu unaosoma nao ndio wanategemea marafiki zako, msaidiane kitu kama hivyo. But then wakiwa wanaanza kujenga a certain perspective towards you, unaona, inakuwa ni mbaya sana, unaona, kwa sababu itakupelekea ndio uanze kufanya vitu kwa peke yako, uanze kufanya peke yako, inafanya maisha yanakuwa magumu kuliko inavyotakiwa. Maisha ya shule mara nyingi lazima tusaidiane, lazima kuwe na that kind of interaction. Lakini kuna mtu saizi hapo na yuko in the same kind of situation, umeona, they don't know what to do. They have no idea where to start. They don't have no help. They don't have friends, who could talk to them, who could like give them that kind of support that you once received from your friends. Now, what can you tell them? How can they start working on it on their own before they get help from other people?
So what I believe that everyone has a friend. It can be one or two, we have them. We just need to learn to open up. Opening up at the earliest before the situation gets worse. You just need to speak it out. And perhaps if you fear the school environment or anything, you can get a moment to speak to the phone, to your parents, sister or sibling. Just be open to them, because I believe that family is the best place to go. When everything gets so weird, gets so hard and difficult, there is always a family. And perhaps there's a person who has taken one step forward before you. So you never know until you speak that this person was in the same situation as mine. So I think the best thing to do is just to accept the situation, forgive where forgiveness is needed, talk to people where you need to talk to a person, and do it at the earliest before everything gets so weary and scary and you feel like I cannot do it anymore. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much for sharing this with us. I hope that your story is going to inspire and help others to find their own healing journey.
My name is Adela, and this was a brief short story about my mental health journey at the first place, and I hope it helps you.
And so my name is Linnet once again, and that was my experience and what I think. I hope that they'll be helpful to you in one way or another, and stay tuned to these episodes, and I hope that they teach you and that you grow here as a community and you feel the love, and you're always welcomed to watch more episodes every single day.